Lenny is one of the least important characters on The Simpsons. He was originally created to simply be Homer's coworker, a lump of flesh for Homer to talk to at the plant. And he evolved into being a lump of flesh to talk to at Moe's. In 37 seasons, he has received very little character development, no consistent continuity details, nor a featured spotlight episode. His counterpart Carl has received at least 2 dedicated spotlights in comparison. From the point of view of the show, Lenny is just a guy. And yet, Lenny is a beloved character in the fandom. He has delivered so many memorable jokes, affected so many stories, in a way that only Lenny could. In fact, there is a running joke that Lenny is secretly the most remarkable man in Springfield. So, is this all just ironic? That everybody collectively loves this guy because he's the most commonplace nobody ever? Or is there something intrinsic about Lenny that is great by his own merit? Today, let's look at the man underneath those purple suspenders. Does Lenny actually matter, or is he just a meme? First, let's try to describe what Lenny is like. Unlike other characters who fulfill a very specific stereotype or occupational niche, Lenny's role as Homer's coworker and buddy doesn't require his personality to be pushed in any particular direction. Lenny could have been written as his responsible coworker, his snarky asshole coworker, his party-going coworker, or even his coworker who does machines. The 4 main personality types. If I had to describe Lenny using one word, I would pick enthusiastic. Lenny is one of the most upbeat and optimistic characters on The Simpsons. His role is often to simply just say wow at whatever Homer is doing or whatever is going on. That tramp has the energy of a hobo. They say he carved it from a bigger spoon. Wow, Homer, that's a cool chant. Where'd you hear it? He's getting a pretty good sound out of that guy. He'll be excited about seeing Duffman or Kent Brockman, marveling at Homer's gymnastic skills, wants to play Obi-Wan, or is declaring Maya Angelou a national treasure. There's definitely a bit of Sideshow Mel in his characterization, the man of the crowd enthusiastically declaring something is happening. Whereas Mel is more dramatic and plays to the crowd, Lenny comes off as someone who just finds everything around him cool and interesting. Lenny is an amazing hype man. Even when pitching to Sideshow Bob about how to kill Bart, he does it with so much cheerful gusto. There's a childlike wonder and naivete that factors into Lenny's characterization, where everything is this exciting new experience for him. He's not always aware of his surroundings, or knows how to react to tricky situations. Like, take the Stonecutters episode, for example. Lenny struggles so much in keeping it a secret from Homer, annoying Carl by constantly blabbing about it. Or that time where Homer's about to bowl a perfect game, and Lenny repeatedly and distractingly says jinxing phrases. Even ordering a pretzel can be too much for him to take in. Some of his goofs are more minor, poking fun at him misunderstanding instructions. He's like a Sideshow Mel with some Ralph Wiggum mixed in. People often dunk on him for acting foolish, and Lenny jokes can feel like non sequiturs. Yeah, I guess Lenny owns a capuchin monkey. Oh, now he owns an alligator. Sure, I totally buy this. I love this moment in season 12, where the gang all plays basketball together, where Lenny excitedly tries to dunk and fails miserably. So he insists Moe committed a personal foul and literally takes the ball and goes home. It highlights his unique blend of his enthusiasm, his childishness, and his hilariously low-stakes drama. He and Carl form a comedy duo that has to provide a ton of commentary and exposition, and Lenny tends to be positioned as the optimistic, upward energy guy. Lenny serves up, "Hey look, Homer's got one of those robot cars." So Carl can reply, "One of those American robot cars." When Homer fakes his death at the beginning of Mother Simpson, Lenny provides all the positive updates, so Carl can do the oh no follow-up. There are obviously exceptions and subversions to their comedy routine, but Lenny tends to be the setup guy, the person who builds up the moment. In some instances, Lenny has some of that unbothered capybara energy, where he's so laughably cool and easygoing. He looks great on the worst day of his life. He's not at all worried about the coin stuck in his head. His apartment shares a wall with a high-ally court, and he absolutely loves it. Oh, did Bart steal his flowers? He's perfectly happy to place this standee instead. In a Treehouse of Horror, he tells King Homer, "Hey, quit eating me." Well, if you feel that strongly about it. By the way, as a quick detour, Homer and Lenny have tried to eat each other at least 5 times on the show. I think the score is currently 3-2. I'm honestly surprised the Blob didn't try to eat the 50-foot Lenny. Now, obviously, he can't be cool and collected all the time. His upbeat, optimistic attitude made him an easy target for the writers. Burns will fire him unfairly, despite not saying the letter E, or for being the last inside the cabin. He'll have his diamond in his tooth stolen, or get crushed by a tank. And of course, his numerous eye injuries. I hate the ending of Homer vs. Dignity, but the fish guts are totally worth it for this joke alone. He's got some Hans Moleman in his characterization too. We the audience don't worry about Lenny that much. We don't know him especially well, and he's so good-natured that none of this abuse ever seems too harsh. Lenny is a character who takes a punch well. Honestly, I think we should credit Mike Scully for turning Lenny into the meme that we all know and love. This was an era that got super jokey and irreverent about the nature of the series, and the writers looked at Lenny and decided this random guy must be the most fascinating person in the world. We get jokes in season 9 like, "Please don't tell everyone how I live," and him kissing the special K-box. Fantasies about Lenny being president, or wondering if he was ever the sexiest man alive like Mel Gibson. There's a lot of buzz around Lenny. Basically all those Lenny eye injury jokes come from this era. I'm actually kind of surprised Burns got so upset about Carl being attacked, given the preciousness of Lenny around this time. Now, there is an argument that Lenny was always kind of a meme as early as seasons 3 or 4. We listened to him say dental plan like a dozen times in Last Exit to Springfield, and then he does the whole classical gas thing later. It was always kinda there as a wacky Springfieldian. But this was definitely an invention of the middle to later eras, where this became a part of his actual shtick. So far, I've highlighted many of his good qualities, but Lenny can be kind of a jerk. Often this is directed at Homer, if the plot needs his peers to mock him and make him feel bad. Homer really tests his patience sometimes, where Lenny's gotta kick him out for overstaying his welcome. He'll fight Carl sometimes too, like after a big fire drill, or after a night of drinking, or during a baseball game. It's always weird when Lenny flies off the handle at someone, wanting to fight Comic Book Guy or Principal Skinner. Lenny is either a very happy drunk or a very angry drunk. This isn't Lenny's natural state by any means, but he can be a hothead. As Mo observes, when the nice ones snap, it's a show. Fundamentally, Lenny is a follower. He stands for nothing. He will go in whatever direction the wind is blowing. If a comedian tells him to burn a dollar bill, he'll bring a bag of money next time. If a recruiter yells at him to join the Navy, he's joining the Navy. If everyone around him is racist toward Middle Eastern people, Lenny is racist too. You would never expect Lenny to take a stand and argue strongly against the status quo. He is too agreeable to do that. We love Lenny for how easygoing he is, but he's kind of a shitty ally. When Lenny's on your side, he doesn't do all that much for you and can easily be persuaded to go elsewhere. I guess he's a good cheerleader, I'll give him that. When you have Lenny, the vibes are good. Although, maybe that's an unfair characterization. We all know there is one alliance that Lenny will never waver from. Alright, it's time to address the elephant in the room. What is up with Lenny and Carl? Are they gay? Are they best friends? Is one of them a figment of their imagination? Let's try to define the relationship. Their general status quo is that they're friends who hang out, eat lunch with Homer, and go to Moe's together. That's the extent of their relationship. In like 95% of their appearances, they're portrayed as good buddies. They have a history together in flashbacks, and are even roommates, a la Bert and Ernie in one episode. However, we do get glimpses occasionally that things are not always great, or that this friendship is more one-sided than it seems. I think Mountain of Madness was the inciting incident between these two. Because here, while Lenny is enthusiastic, Carl is not at all excited about their pairing. He gets frustrated by Lenny's inane questions. In later episodes, they don't want to be Spring Shield partners or Rapture buddies, with Wiggum asking if there is trouble in paradise. Overall, we get more of Lenny's POV in terms of how he values the friendship. We get that joke where Lenny sees Carl in the stars, and Carl also sees Carl. In fatal situations, Lenny insists on dying first because he can't bear to watch Carl go. Or he sees a chorus of Carl angels before passing. It's clear that Lenny literally cannot live without his buddy. They like to play up Lenny's obsessive tendencies, like giving back rubs without asking. And most notably, when Lenny spent one wonderful summer making Mount Carmore. The two have never discussed it because I presume Carl is extremely weirded out by it. In Carl's first Spotlight episode, he declares that they're not actually friends, and that they don't all engage on more than a surface level. And this includes Lenny. This is a surprising revelation, because we, the audience, assume they have a deep bond in the background that we are not privy to. But this implies that Lenny and Carl are just as casual as Lenny and Homer. I don't mean to imply that Carl doesn't care at all about Lenny, or they're not actually friends. That's part of their arcs in the saga of Carl. But these two tend to be portrayed as Lenny loves Carl, Carl enjoys hanging out with Lenny. Naturally, that has led to plenty of gay jokes between these two, like Bart paying them $1,000 to kiss and behind the laughter, or Lenny not knowing where one of them ends and one of them begins. Or in the gay marriage episode, Marge telling Homer not to rush them. The writers love screw the audience jokes with these two. They remark how they used to kiss like that, with their respective girlfriends. And how they switch bodies in the future because Lenny's girlfriend was sleeping with Carl. And then there's their girlfriends, who are actually each other's sisters. Yeah, there's definitely something going on here psychologically. Fun fact, these two actually return in a later episode, and Carl's sister actually proposes. Lenny immediately jumps in the water because he's afraid of commitment. Unfortunately, for all the Lenny and Carl shippers out there, Lenny has pursued many women over the years. Early on, we get this joke where he's shaving his wife or girlfriend's legs, and in Team Homer supposedly has a mistress. He's oinking at those hot women in the movies and hitting on random ladies. He once dated a woman dressed as Woody Woodpecker, and then got Homer to dump his girlfriend Doreen for him. He asked Lurleen out to throw rocks at the quarry, and was rejected. Supposedly, he hasn't asked a woman out in 3 years because he's insecure about his spaghetti arms. When asking for straight matchmaking services, Homer says he's not a miracle worker. There's definitely a Milhouseification of Lenny over the years, portraying him as a loser at love and becoming increasingly desperate and neurotic. Looking at all of this, my conclusion is that Carl is probably straight and Lenny is probably bisexual. Lenny is too obsessed with Carl for this to be totally platonic. Basically, I think Lenny is attracted to women and Carl. Since he can't pursue him romantically, he's content to date around. There is certainly an argument that Lenny is demisexual, or even a closeted gay man trying to fit in, but I tend to accept the surface-level interpretation of Lenny's romantic pursuits. Now, if we want to get into wacky headcanon territory, let's talk about Marge. I think Marge is secretly in love with Lenny, or is at least obsessed with him. Obviously, some of this is Simpsons irony, that when hearing he's sick, she's like, "Not Lenny," and freaking out and making needle points for him. Like I said, just a wacky joke that Marge is so concerned about Lenny of all people. But we get later jokes where she has a photo of him in her hair, or has made him a Happy Labor Day cake that Lisa ruins. Marge is extremely surprised that Lurleen rejected him, and remember, dissuades Homer from marrying Lenny and Carl. For Lenny's part, he has commented on how hot Marge is and drunkenly hit on her in a flashback. He awkwardly requested to go on their romantic getaway. And, most curiously, in this couch gag, after Homer dies, who does Marge immediately remarry? Who gets immediately replaced with Carl? My conclusion is that Homer loves Marge, Marge loves Lenny, Lenny loves Carl, and Carl loves Carl. And nobody loves Moe. I think a key aspect of a Lenny character is that they can't be written too deeply and can't drive the plot too much. A Lenny is meant to be a supporting character, not the hero of the journey who gets a proper character arc. Lenny can be used to demonstrate how our hero has made a difference, has won over hearts and minds. Lenny holds a special role as being maybe the most reactive character in the entire series. Like, let's consider Homer's enemy for a moment. Lenny and Carl are all over this thing. However, neither directly drives the action. No, their job is to be the audience for Grimey's complaints, to gently push back on these arguments and vouch for Homer's character. They're more or less the setting, defining the general worldview. We see this in plenty of episodes where Lenny pops in to explain how everyone's feeling about recent developments. Boy, we wish we saved an A-bomb or two. Don't worry about Mr. Burns forgetting your name. We sure are excited to see the big fight. It's too bad nobody has cable. I like how in the YouTube episode, he and Carl have a bro podcast for the sake of explaining to us how Homer is a phony. And of course, Lenny often gets the thankless role of providing extra contextual information. Like mentioning, wasn't Homer the Y2K officer? Or explaining how Homer's Vegas wife died. These exposition providers have such boring functions. This is likely why he was written and performed with so much enthusiasm. Lenny has to make reading the phone book sound interesting. I do think Harry Shearer's upbeat, nasally performance is a key reason why this unimportant coworker character endured. Charlie wishes he had this much aura. I haven't discussed his friendship with Homer much so far, because there honestly isn't much substance to it. They have plenty of history together, but Lenny's job isn't to explore the nature of male friendship. His function is to be a +1 for an adventure, by cracking wise and setting things up for Homer and others. In some episodes, Homer's quite weirded out by Lenny's overly friendly nature. Or Lenny is disappointed that his friends didn't really come to visit him, coping with expensive American Girl dolls. Their most substantial friendship moment was when Lenny won the lottery and used his money to throw a huge party for his friends. He sings "Thank you for being a friend" and makes Homer feel bad for his jealousy. And then the episode turns into a Bart doppelganger story or something. The point is, Lenny's role as Homer's friend serves as a springboard for the story to go elsewhere. Lenny's job isn't to learn and grow. Still, Lenny has directly impacted episodes in major ways, where the whole thing might not have happened if it weren't for him. Remember, he's the one who argues strongly to charge the Demoxenil to the company insurance. He suggests Moe pursue plastic surgery. He gives Mr. Burns the idea of opening a for-profit college. Lenny can be the inception guy, who puts an idea into their heads and then totally disappears. In other instances, he and Carl will facilitate the plot, like when he tells Homer about Marge's amnesia date, or will help dig up a ballot box from high school. If you need Homer to feel judged and change his mind about a past decision, Lenny is a good vehicle for that pressure. Honestly, thank God Lenny isn't evil, because he could probably subtly induce Homer to do all sorts of terrible things. Wait a minute, does an evil Lenny become an Iago in a story? Didn't think this would be the Shakespeare reference today. The main thing is that Lenny has to appear to be a supportive and reactive element to the world around him. The only reason Lenny does stuff is to send Homer on a journey. And when Homer's doing new stuff, Lenny will tell us how to feel about it. I know this sounds extremely simplistic and basic, but plots desperately need these Lennys to sell the story and set the mood. Lenny's a great example of how a bit player can really make a meal out of a mostly thankless role. There's this really interesting moment that happens in Cremains of the Day, where Marge expresses her disappointment in Lenny specifically for his blasé attitude after Larry's death. And Lenny is really taken aback by this call-out, probably because it's like the first time the show has bothered to criticize him in any way. You can tell he took it to heart because the rest of the story he overcompensates. He becomes the champion of Larry, suggesting a road trip, constantly talking to the urn, and taking the scenic route so Larry can enjoy the wildflowers. It's the only episode I can think of where it's Lenny who is actively pushing the group into the adventure. I think it makes a lot of sense why Lenny would be so shaken by this critique. and not just because it came from his girlfriend. Lenny is like one step above Larry, this background character we don't know that much about, so he would want to prove that their friendship with Larry mattered. Because if Larry didn't matter, maybe Lenny doesn't matter. Lenny's role is entirely defined by these relationships, so psychologically, of course, he would be eager to defend Larry's memory. Much like with Larry, the writers were never interested in exploring Lenny, or letting him achieve anything significant. Other characters, like Comic Book Guy and Krusty, are natural vehicles for jokes about fandom and the entertainment industry, so it makes sense why they keep sticking around. The writers like Carl get a promotion and explore his Icelandic backstory and his place in the black community. Lenny never developed any character hooks. Lenny doesn't do anything. There's no reason to give him a spotlight. Lenny isn't super, he just exists. I totally get why David Cooper picked Lenny as the subject of that super existential comic. In universe, that documentary guy found little Lenny so boring that he wouldn't even give him a segment. But that guy was wrong. I do want to hear about Lenny's dinosaur cake. I do want to see his new plasma TV. I do want to know why he thinks Carl is great. Lenny is a very special character on The Simpsons and how he persists simply because we all like having him around. There is no other reason. He's good at delivering the writer's jokes, Harry Shearer gives a fun performance, and we enjoy watching him. Lenny doesn't need social commentary or an occupational niche to persist on The Simpsons. Lenny persists because he is awesome. In all my time on the internet, I have never seen anyone make a "Lenny sucks" or "I hate Lenny" thread. Even Pissy Flanders wouldn't have been able to come up with anything. It's almost as if all those ironic jokes became a self-fulfilling prophecy. I am not at all surprised that he is so upbeat and easygoing all the time. Because Lenny's got that Lewis Wayne, "I'm happy because everyone loves me" energy. And why shouldn't we? I do think, in their small way, both Lenny and Carl do capture something about our real world that no one else on The Simpsons does. Lenny and Carl represent that broad group of random friendly people that you stumble upon that help pass the time and make every day more tolerable. They could be coworkers, classmates, regulars, whatever. You don't form especially deep relationships with them. From your point of view, they're not especially complex. But everybody needs Lenny and Carl's. We spend so much of our day with Lenny and Carl's. God, how miserable would our lives be if we didn't have these casual, well-meaning randos to talk to? Of course the Lenny and the Carls of the world matter. With Lenny specifically, he has such a well-defined personality by now that I do think he is a unique supporting character archetype. We see Lennys in all sorts of stories. Like, the henchmen on the Venture Brothers have a lot of Lenny energy. I think Luigi is definitely a Lenny, with his upbeat, ineffectual nature. Or Rocco, he might be the rare Lenny protagonist. These small, supremely unimpressive characters. I recently passed 200,000 subscribers and decided to commemorate it with a Lenny video because he is the best representative of the subject matter that I cover on YouTube. The obscurities of Just Stamp the Ticket Man, the Simpson house layout, or who Nelson said haha to most. Lenny is the grand poobah of this stuff. Somebody so unimportant that the writers put him in nearly every Simpsons episode for some reason. I think these mundane, commonplace Lennys are worth a closer look, and are worth appreciating what only they can provide. So here's to you, Lenny. I'll see you at work again tomorrow.